Mozambique is on the verge of securing the first loan in 5 years from the International Monetary Fund. The IMF stated that discussions will begin next year on an extended credit facility, the first since it suspended the Southern African country in 2016. The credit will aim at boosting the country's economic recovery from the pandemic, poverty reduction, equity growth, and further aid in financing other nationwide developments. Now, the Mozambican economy is recovering from a sharp contraction following several years of economic shocks, while the authorities have managed prudently and successfully address COVID-19 and security-related challenges, including international support. Concessional financing has now declined, and high public debt and tight financing constraints should be addressed through fiscal measures, it says. To talk a little bit more about this, we're joined by Paul Fauvet. He is the editor of the Mozambique News Agency. A very good evening to you, and thank you so much for speaking to us, Paul. So, it's been said that this is a landmark deal. Why is that?
It's not a landmark deal. That's just completely over the top. There have been contacts between the Mozambican government and the IMF continually, even though the IMF suspended its program with Mozambique in 2016. The deal, there will be a deal, I believe. They will talk about it in January, and they will try and get a program between Mozambique and the IMF back on track. But the problem is that the IMF suspended Mozambique in 2016, April 2016, because of the scandal of Mozambique's hidden debts. Because Mozambique had broken its agreement with the IMF, had gone behind the IMF's back, and had arranged completely corrupt loans from Credit Suisse and from VTB Russia to three corrupt, fraudulent, security-linked companies. Emerton, Mozambique Tuna Company, Pro Indicus, and MAM. You may know about this. So there's a trial going on right now in Fusu of some of the people involved in this.
Okay. So let's talk about that. So we're talking about 1.2 billion US dollars in government guaranteed loans that the government failed to disclose. So how did the government manage to do this?
Well, this happened under the presidency of the previous president, Armando Guebuza, and it involved the security service, SEAS, and two of the key people on trial now were leaders of SEAS, Gregorio Leal, general director of SEAS, and the head of economic intelligence at the time, Antonio Carlos de Rosario, who became chairperson of the three fraudulent companies. And they got the government of the day, the finance minister of the day, Emmanuel Chang, who is with you in South Africa right now, waiting to be deported either to the United States or to Mozambique. It's still not clear where he's going. He's been under detention in South Africa since the end of 2018. And this man, Chang, signed loan guarantees that were completely illicit, completely illegal, that broke the budget law, that broke the Mozambican constitution. And so we're now in this complete mess. The trial has been going on since August and will last, it will resume after the New Year break. It will go on until February or March at least. And on the outcome of this trial will depend on Mozambique's relationship with much of the rest of the world. The IMF is one thing, and if Mozambique gets a new program with the IMF, that will be a step forward. And a program with the IMF is always seen as something good by other donors and lenders. But Mozambique really needs to solve the problem of the hidden debt. It really needs to put those responsible in jail before the rest of the world will trust it again.
All right, so Paul, let's look at what's on the table. 317 million US dollars in concessional financing. So the IMF would obviously be looking for some concessions. What would that be?
Well, the IMF will expect, and this is quite clear, will expect Mozambique to continue on its current path of restrictive monetary and fiscal policy. The Bank of Mozambique has to actually be highly successful in controlling inflation. Inflation is well within the target for inflation is less than 10%. It will be maybe 6% or so this year, and it kept money supply under control, and there's no doubt that the cautious fiscal policy is welcomed by the IMF, and it will carry on in its conservative way.
Now, we know the administration of President Filipe Nyusi has been very reluctant about an IMF bailout. What would make this kind of...
where are you getting this from?
Well, this is some of the reports that are coming through to us that President Filipe Nyusi...
I don't know where they're coming from. They're not coming from Maputo.
So you're saying they're not?
I'm saying the Mozambique government, the finance ministry in particular, wants a deal with the IMF. No doubt about that. Okay,
so it is a program that would be attractive to them. That's what you're saying.
Yes, I mean they want a program with the IMF. The figure you mentioned, $300-something million. That sounds quite reasonable, and it will be tied, of course, to the Mozambique's post-COVID-19 requirements. And while we're talking about that, one of the things that I think international organisations are impressed with is the way the Mozambique health ministry has handled the COVID-19 pandemic, which has got under much better control than anywhere in Europe.
So let's talk about some of the pressures that the government is facing, and that is the billions of dollars that it was expecting from offshore natural gas discoveries, but that has been delayed because of the insurgency in the north. And there's also the even bigger project of ExxonMobil that has been deferred indefinitely. What kind of pressure will this put the government under, and what can it do?
Well, it's clear that the gas bonanza has been postponed. The first gas revenues will come in the middle of next year. That is from the floating liquefied natural gas platform. The floating platform was built in a South Korean shipyard, and it is currently being towed to the Mozambique Channel. It will be in place in a couple of months. It will start producing liquefied natural gas by the middle of 2022, and the deal has already been made and will all be sold to BP. The Total, the French-led project by Total, is onshore. That has been postponed because of the terrorist attacks in Cabo Delgado. Total said, no, we're going back in. We've not rejected the project. We're going back in when the security conditions are right. Right now, security conditions are improving because of the current offensive by the Mozambican forces and their SADC and Rwandan allies, which have managed to recapture much of Cabo Delgado that had fallen into insurgent hands. As for ExxonMobil, well, you're right. There's still no final investment decision for the ExxonMobil project. So we're not sure whether that is going to go ahead or not.
That there is Paul Fauvet. He is the editor of the Mozambique News Agency. Now, he was speaking to us about talks that are on the table between the IMF and the Mozambique government.